I'm in Shenandoah National Park at Beahms Gap. There's a parking area. There's my little red car. And that's Skyline Drive headed south. We're going to go down here and pretty much straight ahead there's a concrete signpost, which is the Appalachian Trail. I'm going to get on the Appalachian Trail just for a short distance and then see if I can find a Rocky Branch Trail, which should veer off to the right. Okay, I'm at the south end of the parking area at Beahms Gap. I'm standing on Skyline Drive, and you can see that concrete signpost. It says AT right on it. This is the Appalachian Trail. So I'm going to go up here and see if I can find a Rocky Branch Trail. Okay, not more than 100 yards up from Skyline Drive is this second signpost, and continue straight along the AT, but we're gonna veer off to the right. This is Rocky Branch Trail. It's blazed yellow, which means it can be used as a horse trail, which matches what I saw on one of the Park Service maps. So here we go. I'm planning to hike this down the west side of the mountain down to the park boundary. Here's what the first section of Rocky Branch Trail looks like. Somebody's been through here with weed whackers and stuff and cleared out a lot of the brush. It is running parallel to Skyline Drive, and it's very close. As a matter of fact, if you look over there, that's Skyline Drive right there. So this part of the trail is not secluded. It's very close to Skyline Drive, but the alternative is to just walk Skyline Drive, and I don't want to do that. So we're going to follow this south for a ways until it eventually will cross over Skyline Drive and then take me down the west side of the Blue Ridge. I'm 9/10 of a mile into the hike, and I'm still on the stretch of Rocky Branch Trail that's higher up in elevation than Skyline Drive. So after you hike this section, I don't know, maybe 3/10 of a mile, you're up at a high enough elevation and far enough away from Skyline Drive that you can't hear the traffic anymore. Hey, take a look around. So I originally thought that's where I came from. I originally thought that I'd be listening to road traffic this whole stretch, but no, you eventually get away from it. Here's the way I'm going. Looking at a couple of maps, it looks like I'm about at the high point, around 2,700 feet elevation. From here I'm expecting it to curve more to the right and take me back down and cross Skyline Drive. So here we go. Well, look at that. That piece of galvanized metal's been laying there so long, it looks like a tree grew up, lived its life, didn't get very big, died, and now the trees are rotting standing, and that darn piece of galvanized metal still just sitting there. Look at that. I'm 1.7 miles into my hike, and I'm back down to Skyline Drive. I'm on the east side right now. Over there where you see the clearing is the west side, so I'm going to cross Skyline Drive and head on down the west side of the mountain to the park boundary. This stretch was a longer stretch than I thought it would be, but anyway, here we are. Here comes some people. That might have been a little faster than 35 miles an hour, which is the speed limit up here. But anyway, here we go across Skyline Drive and down the west side of the Blue Ridge. I'm 2.8 miles into my hike, and I'm down to the park boundary here on the west side. That little sapling just to the left of the concrete signpost has red blazing on it, which they use to mark the park boundaries. There's where I came from. There's a sign up there that says that the rest of this trail down to Route 666 is open, but to please stay on the trail. So I may walk down this way just a little ways to see if I can understand the parking situation here. There was supposed to be a way to get to the trail from the bottom down here, but I tried this morning and I wasn't able to find it without having to drive onto people's property. And I didn't want to do that, not knowing where I was going. So I may venture down here just a little ways and scope this out. Right down there is water. You can see it down there, maybe the reflection, and I can hear it running. So it's probably Rocky Branch. And there's a little foot trail that veers off that way. I'm not quite sure where that goes. That's not on the Park Service maps either. So I'm eventually going back up the side of the hill here. Pretty steep trail. It's only about 1.2 miles from here up to Skyline Drive, and it's most of it's straight up the side of the mountain. But it's only 10 to 11, so I'm gonna venture down this way a little bit and see about the parking. Okay, I followed this road a little further down. I'm 2.98 miles into my hike, and I'm down to 1,740 feet elevation. And there you can see there's an old chain across the road. Over there on the right is another red blazing, so that's the beginning of the national park. And right there is a concrete signpost, but it's missing the band, so I guess it used to have some information on it, but now they've taken that off, and you go a little further up the hill to get the band information. And right over there, I'll take a still photo, but down there next, just to the left of that rock, is a National Park Service survey benchmark. I may go on down here just a little further till I can see exactly where I am. But if you were to come up this high, this far up this road in a car, there's nowhere to park. So you can't come up this high. And you look at my GPS track, Don't come this far up from the bottom or you won't be able to turn around. You'll be backing down. Okay, here's where I guess the parking area is. I'm 3.14 miles into my hike. I'm down to 1,680 feet elevation. And this big rock here, you can see some walking sticks that people left. Here's where I came from. It's a couple tenths of a mile up to the, I guess the official start of the trail. And we got park land on the right and private property over here to the left. It's like a ranch there. That's their driveway. and this is, I guess, the area where you can park your car. You could get, gosh, maybe 3 or 4 cars here. Actually, this is where I drove to looking for the parking place, but with that house being there and the private property sign, I was just a little leery of parking here, but maybe it's okay right here. So you decide for yourself. If you want to park here, you can park here and come up this path about maybe 2/10 of a mile, and then the beginning of the official trail inside the park veers off to the right and heads up the side of the mountain. So I'm going to turn around and head back. Here's a look at the ranch. You're looking off to the west. That's the Massanutten Mountains, way in the background. This ranch is about as high up as you can get on the west side of the Blue Ridge here before it gets really steep. Nice looking place. Me, I'm heading up the mountain this way. Okay, I'm back up to the official right-hand turn that takes you up this side of the mountain on Rocky Branch Trail. I'm going to mark this spot with on my maps though, because I think here's where I came from, down at the bottom, and I think this trail this road used to come up here, and instead of going to the right, I think it went straight ahead and it followed along the base of the mountain at this elevation, maybe another 2/10 of a mile, and then went up the side of the mountain and came out right at Beahms Gap. That's what I think used to happen. Because there's an old trail on my 1994 map that I'm using. There's an old trail. I'll show you when I get home. But there's an old trail that I guess is abandoned that went from Beahms Gap Overlook down the side of the mountain over there, and then probably followed this road. But for some reason they abandoned that and decided to go up this way instead. Who knows why? The Park Service works in wonderful and mysterious ways. So, but I'm going to mark this little intersection on my maps, and we'll see what else we can find out when I get home. But for now, back up the side of the mountain to Skyline Drive. Four miles into my hike, still climbing the mountain. I'm up to 2,030 feet elevation, and it's about another half a mile up to Skyline Drive. This section here is pretty steep. There's no switchbacks here. It's just straight up the side of the mountain, about 45-degree angle. So got about another 400 feet of elevation to climb in the next half mile. And I think once I get back up to Skyline Drive, instead of crossing and going up to 2700, I may just follow Skyline Drive north back to my car and take the easy way out. .6 miles into the hike, and I'm back up to Skyline Drive. There's some wooden steps, take you right up to the pavement on Skyline Drive right there. I took my pack off here for a minute so I could get some water. It's really humid today, so I'm going to rest here for a couple minutes, and then instead of climbing even further up the mountain on the rest of that horse trail, I think I'm just going to turn left and head north on Skyline Drive. It's uphill some to the parking lot, but it's easy hiking. So it'll probably be about 6 miles by the time I get back to my car, total hiking distance. This hike is not super scenic. In the wintertime, with the leaves off the trees, you could probably see more to the west. Here comes some cars down Skyline Drive. You could probably see more in the winter with the leaves off the trees. But from now until fall, most of these trails in here, unless there's a rocky, craggy overlook, most of them are like hiking in a green tunnel. The good part, though, is it's cooler under the trees than it is. It's going to be hot walking on Skyline Drive on account of the sun, but it's not that far. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this off and head back to my car. It's about 12. I haven't eaten lunch yet because it's not even noon. But instead of eating my trail lunch, I've hatched Plan B. Plan B is I'm gonna head this way south when I get on my car, go out Thornton Gap, down the east side of the Blue Ridge to Sperryville, and at the bottom of the mountain there at Sperryville they got burgers and things. So I'm thinking maybe a burger, fries, and a nice vanilla milkshake. We'll see. I don't know, I might be getting back to my car just in the nick of time. The sky up there all of a sudden is getting real gray looking and the temperature's dropping, so it's real hot and humid today, which means there can be thunderstorms pretty much at any time. I'll just mention this hiking back this stretch of Skyline Drive, this is quite a bit easier than continuing on up the side of the mountain up to 2,700 feet and then back down to about 24. So, but you have to face the traffic, and right now there isn't a whole lot of traffic up here though. So anyway, it's been a good hike. It'll probably be about 6 miles time I'm done. About 5.9 miles into my hike now, back up to about 2480 on elevation. That's Skyline Drive, and when I started out this morning, you could see that mountain off in the distance. So the weather's taking a turn for the worse. So I'm glad I'm back to my car early today, since I can't even see that mountain over there. It's probably going to start raining. Well, look at here, barely made it back to my car in time. I'm coming down the mountain now, and it just started raining. So I might not be stopping at Burgers and Things, because if it's pouring down rain, It's not an inside eating joint, but maybe I can find somewhere else to eat instead. We'll see. Here's the map for today's hike. The quadrangle name is Thornton Gap, 1994. I came into the park from US 211, coming up the east side of the mountain from Sperryville, Virginia. You come in and this is Skyline Drive right here. You drive north on Skyline Drive for just a few miles, and you park right here at Beahms Gap Overlook. Now, this line right here is the Appalachian Trail. Okay, it crosses the Skyline Drive right here at the south end of the Overlook. So what you do is I parked my car here, walked south just a couple of hundred yards, turned left, crossed Skyline Drive, came up here. Now the Appalachian Trail continues on up here and then eventually climbs past mountain, but just about 100 yards on the east side of Skyline Drive, you turn right and you pick up this Rocky Branch horse trail, okay, which wasn't even on this map in 1994. So this is an example of where you have to kind of do your homework and make sure you know what trails are still around and which ones aren't. I use these older maps because they've got a lot of useful hiking information on them. The new modern maps from the Geological Service, they're not worth a damn as far as hiking. These old ones are way better, but you do have to watch out because sometimes trails get closed and new ones get opened. So anyway, here's a horse trail. It kind of follows Skyline Drive south. I just sort of dotted it in down to here. Here's where I crossed Skyline Drive in my video. And then it continues on down pretty steeply down the west side of the mountain down to the park boundary here. Now when you get down here, you turn left and there is just an old dirt road that follows the park boundary down to here. Now this is where I actually tried to hike from. I came up this road from the west up to here, but when I got there it looked like I was trespassing on private property. So I turned around and went back towards Luray, and they came all the way up and up on Skyline Drive and started from up here at Beahms Gap. I was just afraid to leave my car down here. So anyway, you can hike down to here, turn left, and hike on down to here. And since I hiked there on foot, it actually does look like you could park a couple of cars there in a little turnaround. Okay, so if you start from down here, you would park in the little area I show in the video, and then you come up here and turn right and back on up. Now the trail doesn't exactly follow this route. I just dotted this in. There's some switchbacks back and forth down here, and there's a few more up here near the top, okay? And then there's a portion of it that's just straight up the side of the mountain. Now when I got back up to here, I decided that I didn't want to continue to climb the mountain, because to get from here up here, this is continuing to climb the mountain, and it was getting hot. So instead I just turned left, and you still have to climb the mountain walking Skyline Drive, but it's a lot easier because it's graded. Hike back to my car right here. So that was the hike for today. Most of these trails now, let's see, this is the end of May. Most of these trails now are under full canopy, full tree canopy. So there isn't a lot to see anymore hiking along these trails unless you get to an overlook or unless you happen to pass like a rock outcropping where you can get a good view to the east or the west. Okay, but it's a nice hike. I didn't run into anybody the whole time. Now, when I was down here in the video, I made some comments about I thought that this road continued on instead of going to the right. It continued on. Well, you can see here that it does continue on. In fact, it follows all the way over to here, and then if you turn right here, you can follow this little, it's probably a dirt road up here, and then this must be abandoned because this says fire trail, and this fire trail, look where it ends up. It brings you all the way up here to the overlook. So I think in the old days this road used to just hug the side of the mountain here, okay, and then continue on up steeply up the mountain on this fire road here. But I think this fire road's abandoned now, because now what they want you to do is they want you to come down here, okay, along this horse trail, and come down the side of the mountain this way. Okay, so that's an example of where things are a lot different now than they were back in say 1994. If you're using a GPS, set your datum reference to NAD 27. And there's about 12 degrees of western declination for a compass. And each squiggly line on the map is a 40-foot change in elevation. So that's the hike for today. There's one more thing I wanted to show you on these maps. I keep talking about NAD 27. But there's other datum references that you can set your GPS to. For example, one of them is called WGS 84. That's the World Geodetic System of 1984. Now, I took this point right here, where this is 33,000 meters east and 85,000 meters north. So what I did was, if you put your cursor right on that point, it should read for the easting, it should read 33,000 exactly, and for the northing it should read 85,000 exactly. But if your system is set to WGS 84, when you put your cursor right here, it reads 33,011. Okay, for the easting, and for the northing it reads 85,221. Okay, so it's off by 11 meters to the east, and it's off by 221 meters to the north. Okay, well, 11 meters is 36 feet, and 221 meters is 725 feet. So you can see, if you set it to WGS 84, you're going to be off on your navigation by 36 feet to the east, which isn't a whole lot, but you're going to be off on your navigation north and south by 725 feet. Now, considering you're using a GPS that, typically has an accuracy of maybe 20 feet, or maybe even better, being off by 725 feet, that's a lot. So that shows you why it's important on these maps to look in the lower left-hand corner of the map and see what datum reference was used. Most of the ones that I use are older maps, and they use the North American datum of 1927. It's very important to set your GPS correctly with this, or you're going to be off by hundreds and hundreds of feet. Okay? So that's just one more little tip when you're using a GPS in conjunction with these maps.